Sequels. When you have the first, there is no expectation with it because the audience has nothing to compare it with.
When you look at Back to the Future and Superman 1, you go in with little to no expectation because you don't know the story other than what you read from the synopsis from magazines, movie reviews, or in the case of today's method, YouTube reviews and reading the whole plot on Wikipedia. This is the same with 1993's Jurassic Park. Because there had never been a dinosaur movie of this caliber before, audiences went in curious and came out in awe as they had witnessed a monumental cinematic experience. But now, this is where sequels can either build upon from what had been established or end up like a car wreck.
As I've said before, when you make Spider-Man 3 watchable, you have failed.
So, what could a sequel to arguably one of the greatest movies of all time deliver? Would it succeed the original, or would it fail? Time to find out as we venture out to Isla Sorna once again.
If the original was an intense thriller, then it's safe to say the sequel was more of a dark action movie.
It's dark because you don't have the benefit of electrified perimeter fences on Isla Nublar. Mind you, after corporate sabotage, those fences were about as restraining as tracing paper. I do like the theme of redemption from John Hammond, realizing the mistake he had made and that he wanted to keep Site B, the factory floor of Jurassic Park on Isla Sorna, away from human eyes as he had seen with his own eyes that his animals could not be contained. After the tragic animal attack of a pack of compies on Site B, Peter Ludlow, Hammond's lowly nephew, used the incident to usurp control of InGen from Hammond and planned to transport the animals off the island.
What could possibly go wrong? Oh, but I'm getting ahead of myself now.
Hammond believes that by getting a complete photo record of those animals alive in their natural habitat would allow him to use public opinion to preserve the island. He sends a group of advocates consisting of Ian Malcolm, who wishes to face live dinosaurs again about as much as the idea of Chris Hemsworth wanting to work with Taika Waititi these days, Eddie Carr, a field weapons expert, Nick Van Owen, an experienced photographer, and a paleontologist who happens to be Malcolm's girlfriend in Dr. Sarah Harding.
You know, in this moment, I'm gonna sympathize with Malcolm.
You sent my girlfriend to this island alone?
Now, the writing makes Dr. Harding a competent, strong, and intelligent expert in paleontology, but let me ask you, would you let her go when you've seen these animals up close?
And in some cases, too close.
Now, you'd think things are difficult enough with trying to get his girlfriend off the island. Hold on to that thought.
I just wanted to make dinner. Want it ready when you guys got back. Yeah.
As if it wasn't dangerous enough before, now he's got to get his daughter off the island.
This adds layers to Malcolm's situation, as he now has two people he loves more than anything, and it frustrates him that they cannot understand why he's scared witless. And then we have the addition of Roland Tembo, one of the most experienced and accomplished hunters on the planet. He's pretty much shot everything there is to hunt. Until he learns of a living, breathing Tyrannosaurus Rex. He tells Ludlow that he's in charge and he's not interested in the money, and only wants the right to hunt a buck T-Rex. Things become complicated when Nick takes it upon himself to rescue the infant T-Rex after sabotaging the hunter's camp and brings him back to the trailer for him and Sarah to set his broken leg. Fun fact, it was Ludlow who broke his leg when he stumbled over him whilst drunk. There is the photo evidence of it happening, but for whatever reason, this was omitted from the final cut.
You're just trying to make me feel better. I remember all those stories you told.
Oh, no. This is nothing like that. We're in a completely different situation right now.
I do like the fact that the Jurassic Park movies pay attention to continuity.
Turn the light off. Turn the light off.
Mommy's very angry.
Oh, it ain't just Mommy who's angry.
What? Oh, okay, folks, we need a timeout here a minute.
Had this been the Velociraptors approaching, then okay, you wouldn't have heard them as they're stealthy. But Tyrannosaurs are not exactly known for picking up their feet. Given what we know from the first movie, the approach of the T-Rex is felt with seismic vibrations in the ground, then how on earth did they not hear nor feel these parents approaching?
Prove me wrong.
Now, this movie did deliver more of the terrifying aspects of dinosaur attacks, from the nail-biting experience of Eddie attempting to pull the trailer back onto the cliff with a 4x4, before the Rexes did their Make-A-Wish shot with the turkey bone, to the continued attack of them on the camp of the surviving advocates and harvesters, and to the bull Rex terrorizing San Diego.
Malcolm says something very telling in the walk to the workers' camp.
Taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas, and I'm gonna be there when you learn that. Now you're John Hammond.
Well, he did warn him.
The original ending was of the survivors wind sailing off the island, or to them evading a pterodactyl to where a helicopter would end up killing the animal. But just like Spielberg did with the original, he changed the ending to the male T-Rex being brought to the mainland. While this was a cool action piece to watch, it felt a little redundant as well when you consider this had been done before with King Kong in most iterations of the eighth wonder of the world being shipped to New York. Interesting bit of trivia. The aerial shot of the people running away from the Rex was used in D-Generation X's Titantron video.
So, I guess that makes him D-Generation Rex?
The ending is done with Hammond getting what he intended, keeping the island preserved and isolated from human interference. And suffice to say, a treacherous nephew got his just desserts with the way the Buck set up Junior for his first kill. The writing is not as polished as the first movie, but it keeps the ball rolling more than enough to have an engaging, memorable experience. Jeff built upon what he had established as Malcolm in being the voice of reason in trying to warn people of what he had witnessed at Jurassic Park, and is only vindicated when people witness a live T-Rex terrorizing San Diego. His cocky and arrogant demeanor had been replaced with a very hardened, sober perspective, and is completely against the idea of a documentation expedition to Site B. He understands John's idea, he just knows this is not going to end well.
Well, when you consider what he survived before, he's kind of an authority on it.
Julianne was a great addition to the story as someone who was ecstatic to be on the island, but changes her perspective, closely matching Ian's halfway through the movie after surviving the Rex's attack on the trailer. It was irrelevant whether he was on the Harvesters or Advocates side, this was a guy who had his act together and had a commanding presence. Even after the dinosaurs wrecked his camp, he took charge of the situation in leading the movable feast to the workers' camp. Real leaders are those who are not afraid to get their fingers dirty and show their students how it's done as opposed to telling them how it's done. And the late Peter Postlethwaite did a masterful job in portraying Roland Tembo.
Well folks, remember this, if you're hated by the audience, you're doing your job well.
Stormare did a fine job in playing a man of arrogance in how he has no respect for nature and shocking a compy, and how karma comes to bite him later. Literally. And his death was a nod to Hammond's death in the original book.
I guarantee you this, there is not one point in this movie where you will like this man.
Howard sells the performance of a stuck-up, arrogant, condescending and smarmy corporate executive that ousts his own uncle in order to get control of InGen after they were on the verge of Chapter 11 for what happened at Jurassic Park. Vince acts as the Advocate's photographer and muscle when the rival group from InGen arrives and sabotages their camp by releasing the animals they captured. I felt like he could have been given more to do as he was giving a good performance. Richard has a small role as an equipment specialist from vehicles to weapons. He feeds off of Goldblum well over the animosity of the satellite phone not working. He was given a hero's death in saving the rest of his teammates. But what a way to go. Vanessa probably didn't have as much material to work off her co-stars as the previous child actors in Ariana and Joseph had, but what she is given makes Kelly come across as strong, confident, resourceful, and brave, despite what she had found herself in on Site B, and she plays off Goldblum really well. These two literally have a coffee break appearance and then they're gone. What you see with the man that started it all is clearly a changed man in knowing what he had done wrong and realizing the dream that crashed and burned at Jurassic Park and attempting to stop his nephew from pillaging and exploiting Site B. Just like Goldblum, he built on his performance from Jurassic Park and showed how much the character had evolved. Also, in the making of, Spielberg got him to say the iconic line again from the first movie as he loved it so much.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. I just had to hear that again.
In the 4 years since the original, the effects were a lot more impressive. The dinosaurs were able to do more from the visual effects perspective, as you'd see the Tyrannosaurs being more mobile compared to what Rexy did in the original. Small trivia. The shot of the Rex wiggling its arm was a nod to the T-Rex in the original King Kong movie. The female Tyrannosaur, referred to as either the female or the doe, was a dull brown colour like Rexy was, whereas the bull T-Rex or the buck had a green tinge in its skin to distinguish itself from the female. Also, its roar was mixed with a male pig as another means of making it different from its mate, whereas the female kept the sounds used to create Rexy's roar in the original. The Velociraptors probably received the biggest overhaul. They had a tiger colour skin to their appearance as opposed to their original movie counterparts that had a dull brown skin. They don't have as big of a presence in this movie, as this focused more on the Rexes, whereas Jurassic Park focused way more on the Raptors. The animatronics are as impressive as ever, especially with the baby stegosaur that Julianne interacts with, and it's such a sweet moment because you buy into the idea that it's a real animal and Julianne enjoyed acting with it. I can only imagine what Julianne and Vanessa were feeling when they had to interact with the T-Rex that poked its head into their tent. Because I have to believe that's not acting there. Much like with the tone of this sequel, the score is much darker and frightening than Jurassic Park. The familiar theme of Jurassic Park is used in Malcolm's exit from Hammond's home and to the end of the movie where the Tyrannosaur family are reunited. There is definitely more of a suspenseful feeling from the Stegosaur herd attacking Sarah when they feel like their baby is threatened, and adding to the pulse racing experience in which Eddie is trying to save his colleagues in the trailer scene, and the music used in his death segment really heightens the terrifying aspect in dealing with prehistoric wild animals. The jungle drums in Where Roland is hunting the male Rex perfectly heighten the intense pacing of the scene because a wild animal is dangerous enough on its own. Injure or make it feel like it's threatened and it becomes an even more dangerous animal. John Williams definitely built upon the foundations he had laid down with the previous movie and showed the darker side of the Jurassic story. The Lost World grossed a profit of $618.6 million against a budget of $73 million. Put in 26 years of inflation, and the second Jurassic Park would now be worth $1.1 billion. The movie collected $72.1 million on its opening weekend, eventually taking $92.7 million for the 4-day Memorial Day holiday. Despite the good numbers, the sequel took substantially less money than the original Jurassic Park of $1 billion and had mixed reviews. Roger Ebert, who gave the first film 3 stars, gave The Lost World only 2, writing, "It can be said that the creatures in this film transcend any visible signs of special effects and seem to walk the earth. But the same realism isn't brought to the human characters who are bound by plot conventions and action formulas." Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times saw improved character development over the original. It seemed such a mistake in Jurassic Park to sideline early on its most interesting character, the brilliant, free-thinking and outspoken theorist Ian Malcolm with a broken leg. But in its most inspired stroke, The Lost World brings Malcolm back and places him front and center, calling it a pleasure to watch such wily pros as Goldblum and Attenborough spar with each other with wit and assurance. Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly gave the film a B grade. He remarked, "Mr. T-Rex was cool in the first Spielberg flick, sure, but it wasn't until San Diego that things got crazy cool. It's the old tree falling in the woods conundrum. Unless your giant monster is causing massive property damage, can you really call it a giant monster?" Spielberg said that during production he became increasingly disenchanted with the film. "I beat myself up, growing more and more impatient with myself. It made me wistful about doing a talking picture, because sometimes I got the feeling that I was just making this big silent roar movie. I found myself saying, is that all there is? It's not enough for me." Spielberg regretted that the film characters are aware they are going to an island of dinosaurs, unlike the previous film. He later said that he knows a major reason why his sequels tend to not live up to the quality of his original films. "My sequels aren't as good as my originals because I go on to every sequel I've made and I'm too confident. This movie made $1 gazillion, which justifies the sequel. So I come in like it's going to be a slam dunk and I wind up making an inferior movie to the one before. I'm talking about The Lost World and Jurassic Park." The movie would be followed with 2001's Jurassic Park 3 before the franchise went into hiatus for 14 years before returning in 2015 with Jurassic World and beginning a new trilogy.
Since 1997, the movie has been enjoyed on VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. I'm MJ Knight, and this was The Lost World Jurassic Park.
Four years after the events of The Lost World, Alan Grant returns in a rescue mission to Site B. Real Features revisits the 2001 sequel in the 22nd anniversary of Jurassic Park 3, only on Real Features.